I never thought the people who raised me would be the ones to throw me away. Not like this. Not on Thanksgiving. But I've learned that when people get used to leaning on you, they stop seeing it as help. They start seeing it as your job. And the moment you stop doing that job, you become the villain of the story. My name is Juniper Hale. Everyone calls me June. I'm 25 years old. And for the last 4 years, I was the reason my family had a roof over their heads. Not that anyone ever said it out loud. I grew up outside Columbus, Ohio, in a house that always felt one bad month away from falling apart. My dad, Gary, drove a delivery truck for a regional freight company. My mom, Denise, cleaned houses a few days a week. We weren't wealthy, but we managed. Until my dad's knees gave out. It happened gradually. First, he was limping after long routes. Then, he needed a cane. Then the company put him on medical leave. And the leave turned into, "We're letting you go," a few months later. He filed for disability. But the paperwork dragged on and on. One denial after another. One appeal after another. And no checks ever came. My mom picked up more cleaning jobs. But 3 houses a week doesn't cover a mortgage, a car payment, and a 16-year-old's braces. So I stepped in. I was 21, fresh out of community college, working as a medical billing coordinator at a clinic in the city. At first, I just helped when they asked. $50 here. Covered a late electric bill there. It felt good. Honestly, it felt like being a good daughter. But can you help with this slowly turned into, you need to cover this. And before I understood what had happened, I was paying the mortgage, the electric bill, the internet, most of the groceries, even the payments on my younger sister Ashley's orthodontist visits. And the worst part was how normal it became to them. My dad never once said thank you. My mom treated it like it was simply what a daughter does. And my older brother, Colton, 28 years old and still living in his childhood bedroom, never contributed a single dollar. If anything, he mocked me for being, in his words, the family's ATM. I told myself it was temporary. Once the disability came through, once my mom found something better, things would even out. That day never came. And somewhere in year 3, I stopped pretending it would. Still, nothing prepared me for what happened at that Thanksgiving table. We were all there. Me, my parents, Colton, and Ashley, who was 17 by then and glued to her phone under the table like always. My mom had gone all out with the turkey and the sweet potato casserole, insisting that no matter how tight things were, we kept our traditions. Halfway through dinner, right after my dad refilled his glass of Crown Royal for the 3rd time, the conversation shifted. "You know," my dad said, leaning back in his chair like he was about to deliver good news. "June's been living here rent-free long enough. Don't you think?" Denise, my mother nodded like this was a decision they'd already made without me. "You're 25 now. Sweetheart, it's time you had your own life. Your own place." I set my fork down slowly. "I'm sorry." "What?" Colton smirked without even looking up from his phone. "Yeah. It's kind of pathetic. You're still here." Not gonna lie. I actually laughed. A short, disbelieving laugh. "I pay for this house. I cover the mortgage, the electric, the internet, half of Ashley's orthodontist bills. And I'm the one who's a problem." My mom hid. The way she always did when she wanted me to feel unreasonable. "Nobody's saying you don't help, June, but it's time for you to be independent. Your father and I have talked about it, and we think it's best. Best for who?" I asked. Nobody answered. And that's when it actually landed. They hadn't thought this through even a little. They'd gotten so comfortable with my money that they never once considered what would happen the day I wasn't there to pay for it. I felt something settle in my chest. Not sadness, not even anger yet. Just clarity. Okay, I said quietly, if that's what you want. My mother's face softened, like she thought she'd gotten through to me. I know it's scary. Honey, but this will be so good for you. We can even help you look at apartments. I almost laughed again. Instead, I just nodded. I'll start packing tomorrow. For just a second, something flickered across her face. Doubt. Maybe. But it was too late for that. I barely slept that night. The conversation looped in my head, my dad leaning back like he was doing me some kind of favor. My mother talking to me like a confused child. Colton smirking like it was all a joke to him. It wasn't a joke. They wanted me gone. Fine. I'd give them exactly that. By 10 the next morning, I had 2 suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes packed. Clothes. My laptop. My important documents. The few things in that house that were actually mine. I didn't own furniture. I'd never bothered getting my own place because I genuinely believed my family needed me. Turns out they only needed my paycheck. Around noon, there was a soft knock on my door. It was Ashley, arms crossed, looking like she didn't know where to put herself. You're actually leaving, she asked. I zipped my last bag shut. It's what they wanted. She chewed on her lip. Mom said you'd calm down by tonight. I let out a short laugh. She actually thinks I'm overreacting. Ashley didn't say anything else. I felt a small pang of guilt looking at her. She was still a kid. Still stuck in that house. Still innocent in all of this. But I couldn't stay for her sake. I softened my voice. I'm not mad at you. Okay, I just can't stay somewhere I'm not wanted. She nodded. I looked away fast like she didn't want me to see her face. And walked off. Downstairs. My mother was waiting by the front door like she'd been standing there for a while. You're really leaving right now, she asked, eyeing my bags. You told me to. I thought you'd take more time to figure things out. No need. I've already got somewhere to stay. That wasn't entirely true yet. But I wasn't going to stand there and let her talk me into staying another week. My dad wandered in from the den. Scratching his stomach like this was just another lazy Friday. So you're really doing this? Huh. I didn't bother answering. I reached for the doorknob. That's when my mother said the thing I will never forget as long as I live. June. Before you go, we do need to talk about the bills. I froze. Turned around slowly. I'm sorry. Well, she said. Like this was the most reasonable request in the world. I know you're moving out. But obviously we still need help with the mortgage and the utilities. We were thinking you could keep sending some money for a while. It wouldn't really be that different. You kicked me out. I said flatly. We asked you to become independent. She corrected. Like the distinction mattered. My dad chimed in. Annoyed now. Like I was the unreasonable one. Don't be selfish. Kid. We raised you. Now it's your turn to help us out. My hands curled into fists at my sides. They had no problem throwing me out of the house 20 minutes ago. But the second they realized that also meant losing my direct deposit, suddenly I was family again. No, I said. My mother blinked. No. I'm done paying for anything in this house. You made it very clear last night that I'm not part of this household anymore. So I'm done. Silence. Then my dad scoffed. Wow. Nice way to repay us. My mother looked genuinely wounded. We are your family. June. I actually laughed out loud at that. Funny. You didn't seem to care about that 12 hours ago. I walked out. Down the porch steps. And to my car. Behind me, I could hear my mother calling my name. My dad muttering something under his breath. And Colton. From the kitchen window. Saying, guess she's actually doing it. I didn't turn around. I didn't cry. I just drove. That first night, I stayed with my coworker and closest friend, Priya. She didn't ask a single question, just handed me a blanket and pointed me to the guest room. I spent that night scrolling apartment listings on my phone. And for the first time in years, I realized something incredible: I could actually afford a place of my own, now that I wasn't bankrolling an entire household. Within 10 days, I signed a lease on a small one-bedroom apartment near Grandview Heights. Nothing fancy, old cabinets, a radiator that clanked at night, but it was mine. No one walking into my room without knocking. No comments about how I was spending my own paycheck. Just quiet. I settled into a routine. Work, gym, groceries for one, actually cooking meals I wanted to eat instead of whatever stretched the furthest. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living instead of just surviving. Meanwhile, word trickled back to me about how things were going at the house. Priya's mom still talked to mine occasionally, so I got updates I never asked for. Apparently, my dad had genuinely believed I'd cave within a month and start sending money again. When the first mortgage payment came due and I didn't send a cent, reality hit hard. The mortgage alone was almost $800 more than they'd budgeted without me. The internet got shut off for a week. My dad started listing his old tools on Facebook Marketplace. Colton, for possibly the first time in his adult life, had to start paying for his own gas. I felt nothing close to guilt. I felt, for the first time in a very long time, like I could breathe. One evening, a couple weeks after I'd settled in, Priya came over with a bottle of wine and takeout containers spread across my new coffee table. "Can I ask you something?" she said, curling up on the couch across from me. "Do you regret any of it?" I thought about it honestly before answering. I regret not doing it 3 years ago. I keep thinking about all the vacations I never took, the savings account I never built, the boyfriend I broke up with because he said I was too tied up in my family's drama to have a real relationship with him. He wasn't wrong. I just didn't want to hear it at the time. So no regrets about leaving them to figure out their own mortgage. Known, I said, and I meant it. The version of me that used to apologize for wanting a life of my own, she's gone. I don't miss her. Priya raised her glass. To the new June. I clinked mine against hers. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I actually felt like celebrating something. Work got easier too. My supervisor at the clinic, a soft-spoken woman named Renata, pulled me aside about a month in and told me I seemed lighter. "You used to look like you were carrying something heavy into every shift," she said. "Whatever changed? Keep it that way." I didn't explain the whole story. I just said, "I finally stopped paying for other people's mistakes." And she nodded like she understood exactly what that meant without needing details. About 5 weeks after I left, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail out of habit. But curiosity won. "Hello." Pause. Then a familiar voice. "June. It's Mom." I didn't bother hiding the exhaustion in my voice. "What is it?" "Mom." She launched into her usual concerned mother routine, though this time it sounded strained at the edges. "I just wanted to check on you. I know you're doing fine, but things have been really tight over here." I braced myself. I knew exactly where this was going. "We've been struggling with the bills," she continued. "Your dad's disability still hasn't come through. And I picked up 2 more houses to clean. But it's still not enough. We were hoping maybe you could help out. It wouldn't have to be much." I leaned back against my kitchen counter, feeling heat rise in my chest. "I already told you. Mum, I'm done paying your bills. You told me I wasn't welcome there anymore. You said you didn't need me." Silence stretched on the line. I knew exactly what she was doing, waiting for the guilt to creep back in. Waiting for me to fold, like I always had. "I know. June. I know. But things are different now. Your father and I, we didn't mean for it to go like that. We were upset. You were upset. But now we're in real trouble, and you're the only one who can help us. I let out a short, humorless laugh. You made it very clear I wasn't wanted. You were happy to take my money while I lived under your roof. But the second I'm gone, suddenly you need me again. No, this is about family. June, family helps each other when things are hard. Funny how family only applies when you need something from me. I said. When I needed anything from you, when I needed you to say thank you even once I was invisible. We're going to lose the house without you, she said, her voice cracking now. You can't just abandon us like this. Something in me went very still and very calm. I'm not responsible for your choices. Mum, I'm sorry things are hard. But that's not my problem anymore. She hung up without another word. I sat on my kitchen floor for a long time after that call, feeling a strange mix of relief and something heavier I didn't want to name. I didn't call back. I didn't visit. I didn't send a single dollar. A few days later, I got a text from my dad. 3 words, come home. Talk. I ignored it. That's when they showed up in person. It was a Saturday morning when I heard the knock. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. Both of my parents, standing in my hallway like they had every right to be there. No call first. No warning. Just showing up. I opened the door but didn't step aside. What are you doing here? We need to talk, my dad said, his voice low and demanding. The same tone he used to use when I was a kid who'd broken a rule. I told you I don't want to talk. My mother spoke up from behind him. June, this is ridiculous. We're your family. You can't just cut us off like we mean nothing. And why not? I said, my voice finally rising. You didn't care about me when I was the one paying for everything in that house. Why should I care about you now? Because you owe us. My dad snapped, stepping closer. We put a roof over your head for 21 years. We never made you worry about bills as a kid. And now you're going to just walk away from us. You're not getting a dollar from me, I said, standing my ground. They stared at me, stunned, like they genuinely hadn't expected resistance. And then my father did something I never expected. He pushed past me into my apartment. Get out of my way. June. I didn't even try to physically stop him. But the second his shoes hit my hardwood floor, I understood exactly how much control he still believed he had over me. He looked around my apartment, at the furniture I'd chosen myself, at the life I'd built without him, and muttered, "This place isn't much. Get out of my apartment," I said through my teeth. He didn't move. He crossed his arms instead. You need to grow up and start acting like a responsible daughter. You owe us. June. Something inside me finally snapped fully into place. I don't owe you anything. I am done. My mother stepped forward, trying to soften things the way she always did. Please. June. We're not asking for much. Just a little help with the bills and we'll be fine. I looked her directly in the eye. You still don't get it. Do you? I'm not your backup plan. I'm not here to fix the mess you made. I'm done. They stood there in stunned silence, like they truly never imagined I'd push back this hard. Then I said the words that made it final. I don't want to see either of you again. And I opened my apartment door and waited until they walked out. It's been almost 4 months since that day. My life has been surprisingly peaceful. I've settled into a rhythm work. My own space. My own bills. My own decisions. Honestly, I'm doing better than I ever imagined I could. I feel like I can finally breathe without the constant pressure I lived under for years without even realizing it. As for my parents, I've heard secondhand that things haven't been easy. They've reportedly reached out to my dad's brother for help. And my mom picked up a third cleaning job. My dad's disability case is apparently still tied up in appeals. I don't know how much longer they can keep everything afloat. And honestly, I've made peace with not knowing. Part of me still feels a small ache seeing people I once loved struggle. But a bigger part of me knows this isn't my burden to carry anymore. They made the choice to push me out the door. I'm simply the one who finally let them live with what came after. I'm still standing by my decision. No more money. No more covering their responsibilities. No more shrinking myself down so they could feel comfortable. A few weeks ago, Ashley reached out to me directly for the first time since I left. She's 18 now, about to graduate, and she asked if she could come see my apartment sometime. I said yes without hesitating. Whatever happened between me and our parents, she was never the one who put me in that position. And I don't want her growing up thinking the only two options in a family are silent sacrifice or total estrangement. When she visited, she sat on my secondhand couch, looked around at my mismatched furniture and the plant I somehow hadn't managed to kill yet, and said, "It's really quiet here." I told her that was the whole point. I've also started therapy. Something I never had the time or spare money to consider when I was covering 4 people's expenses on one salary. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Ferris, said something in our 3rd session that stuck with me. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're information. You're not punishing your parents by refusing to fund their choices. You're simply telling them the truth about what you're willing to carry. I've held on to that sentence on the hard days. And there have been a few. I still think about my mother's voice cracking on the phone sometimes. I still wonder, in quieter moments, whether there was a version of this where everyone got to keep their dignity intact. But then I remember the years of being handed bills instead of gratitude. The years of my own brother laughing at me for being too responsible. The Thanksgiving table where they decided, without asking me a single question, that my presence in that house was worth less than my absence. And the ache fades a little more each time, but I keep asking myself the same question. And I want to know what you think too. Did I do the right thing? Should I have helped them? At least a little. Even after everything. Or did I draw the line exactly where it needed to be drawn? I genuinely love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.